part 3, and before we go into more complex logic, I want to fix some styling issues we have as of now. First of all, you may have not noticed, but if I close this, our board doesn't fit in one page anymore, which is definitely not ideal. So what I want to do is to change a bit the width and the height to always fit what we need. Let's go then to our board. Also going to remove also this board here. There's no need for that. And this with 3/4 is fine, yes, but only to a certain limit. You can also remove this. Let's go then to our tailwind and say for max width. What we have is max width. Let's use something that we see, let's say 24 RAM or maybe something even bigger. Let's try it out. We have here max width, maybe this 3XL, 768 pixels. Let's see if this is good enough. Coming back, check it out. I'm going to close this. No, it's still too big. So we're going to reduce it, maybe just directly to XL. And now, yeah, we have at least in my screen size here, it will always fit. If it reduces, it will start going smaller, which is good. It's fine for me. Maybe in your screen size to have to change a bit, but as of now, it's really not the most important for me, the responsiveness. Just want to make sure that it doesn't break, at least in my screen. Later on, can make this more responsive, make it that on mobile takes full space, and improve this a lot. I just want to make a quick fix, as I said, because now what I want you to pay attention to is the other parts of the layout, most importantly, this coordinate and the icons. Make the coordinate more subtle and the icon more prominent to really look like a chessboard per se. Let's go back then to our code. There is some issue here. It's this key. I see it already. This key should be here now, not in the square because now I have a div on top of it. And entering the square, let's have two of these coordinates, but instead of saying the coordinates twice, we need the columns and the row, right? So here I'm just going to say square dot row plus 1. And these square coordinates, maybe we can just say let's get square column coordinates and update it on our square service and return this. Move the rest. That will be our square column coordinates. Let's import, update import, remove this, doesn't exist anymore. And we have now then the 8a here. Now it's inverted because of course we put it, let's put the column before. Now, okay, A1 to 8, A8, H8, H1, okay, everything like before, but now is split in two. And I don't know you, but this seems not the best for me because the way we get each of the coordinates, it's slightly different as the column coordinates be translated and all. I don't like this approach. I much rather have two functions, even if this one will just return square row plus 1, but I much rather have it than to just have it like this. And we're adding a bit of logic here to our squares, which I just named that this is not called board, it's called square. Okay, it's copy paste problems. These square column coordinates, I'd like to have something similar for the row. So I'm going to create here in the square service, export const get square row coordinates and return a string. So I'm going to use a template literal here with the square dot row. And now I use this same function here. The result, it's still the same, okay, but now it's a bit better on how this is done. Like for at least for me, it looks better. And in the end, if we need to change the row coordinates by something else, we can do it in this specific function. However, this service doesn't look like quite simple. Couldn't we just both this service and this piece service bring all this information inside the models itself, inside the classes that we created? Let's take a look. Square model. And I'm going to put side by side. Let's see if not too small for you. So hope not. Have here the square model, which has a set piece. Okay, so why not create here another function which will be get column coordinates? doesn't need to receive any parameter because we already know which square are we talking about. And I'm going to return the same that we have here. We bring this column notation to the square model, like so. So we have this reference. And instead of using square.column, we just use column, or actually this dot column. We do the same for the row. So get row coordinates. I forgot to specify the type to return a string. Return a string. This one is a void. Instead of using, I'm going to use exactly what we have here. Square.row, but in this case, this dot row plus one. Removing the necessity of having this square service, this extra file for this simple information. Lastly, we can just do the same for isLight square. I'm going to add it here. IsLight square. Okay, seems fine. Square.column. No, it doesn't need to be received. I'm going to use this dot column and this dot row. Perfect, just like before. Yeah, I'll keep the same structure for all of them, for all of these functions. Okay, I'm going to use arrow functions for all because why not? Okay, this is our set piece, get column coordinates, row coordinates, and isLight square. And now in our component, instead of calling these functions like this, we can just say square dot get row coordinates. And here is square dot get column coordinates. The same here, square dot isLight square. That seems fine to me. This can be removed, this import, which means that the square service file can be deleted. Right? Bringing the information to our square model. Let's do the same for the pieces. Get piece icon here is, as of now, inside the piece service, but this can totally be part of the piece model class. I'm going to bring this here then, and write out converted, so get piece icon. Don't need to receive this, because the piece is already the piece itself. And here we're going to use this dot type. Of course, we need to import this here. And piece type, oh, I need to put this below after piece type was already declared. And now our piece service don't need to exist anymore. I'm still going to keep the folder though, even it's empty, because I know I will need it in the future. So for now it will be empty, but in the future we're going to create some more stuff. In our square component, we're going to use square.piece.getPieceIcon. Removing this, simplifying quite a bit our code, transferring the responsibility of information about itself to the square and to the piece. We can also do this square piece color, and why don't we say here is white piece, like this, equal function returning a boolean, which will return this dot color equals player color white. And now we do this is white piece, having then the styles attached to this function. Come back to our page, refresh, because we had some problems in the compilation in the between, of course. Now we should see the result exactly as we had before. And with this small refactor, don't need this anymore, we can continue working on the layouts. We have to make sure that these coordinates look a bit more like coordinates in their correct positioning. For that, I want us to put the column, there is the letter, on the bottom right, and the row, there is a number, here, keep on the top left. So number on top left, letter on bottom right. We can use absolute, but I don't remember how to do that on Tailwind, so I'm going to search it here really quick. Position, just let's imagine absolute for both of them. And I'm also already going to add here a relative for the div on top to make sure that they stay together. The absolute has its boundaries correctly set, otherwise they will all fly away. Now we see that they are behind our icons, which is fine. We just need to make sure that these go to the correct positioning. Back to code then, and the column I said I want it to be on the bottom, let's give it a 1, and on the right. And the row needs to be on top and on left. Back here, see, it looks better. They're in the correct position at least. I just need to reduce the size of this. So I'm going to say text XX to reduce the font size that we have. And now it looks way better. Maybe we'll change the font color later in the future, but I like the way it is now. The next step would be to position our icon in the center and of course to have them bigger because as of now they are quite small. Back to the code then, let's give this a flex. I'm going to justify center and also add the items center. Let's see what is the result. Okay, all the icons there. And the font awesome icons, they have specific classes for sizes that we can use. Just select any that you wish. Open here the show styling tools and you see that they have different sizes if you want to. Like 2XL maybe, that's what we're looking for because we need them to be quite big. And you see that this is the class that they're using, FL 2XL. So let's go here, not FL, FA, FA 2XL. Going back to our code. And now you have, it seems good enough for me. The size could be potentially bigger, but I like the way it is right now. Let me close this because we don't need font awesome for now, at least not exactly right now. And want to hide all these unnecessary labels because it's repeating everything. I want to keep this coordinates only for the first column and for the first row. And see, when you do that, our board will look way cleaner. However, for that, we need to make sure that this has some conditions, and we can only show this in specific scenarios. Let's create here then two more props, which will be show coordinate column, which will be a boolean, and show coordinate row, which will also be a boolean. Let's bring this here, column, and I'm going to keep them as optional because in case it doesn't come, it's just false, and that's it. So show coordinate row, and if so, do put this one, and now for the column, just copy this here and add it. Okay, this seems fine. Now in the board, we need to specify whenever we want to show this. So let's add here show coordinate column. It will be when square dot column is 0, right? It's not what we want. And now show coordinate row. It will be square dot row equals 0. Simple like so. And right now you see we have some small issues now become all ones and a's. Let's check it out why. Let's understand what I did wrong. So analyzing here, I see that it's showing the column A always in this column, and here in this row it's always showing 1. So it is showing when the coordinate row is 0, okay, and it's showing when the coordinate column is 0. That is fine. So it means that these properties are arriving here correctly. Now, square.get column coordinates return this A, A. Ah, I see. I see the problem. Here it is inverted. So let's understand the idea of this. I want to show the coordinate of the column actually every time that the row is 0. So it's inverted the logic here. And this is the column. Why is that? Because the coordinate of the column must be shown every time the row is 0. So every time I have the first row, we see here the coordinate of for the columns. And the other way around as well. So show coordinate for the row. We want to show the row coordinate every time the column is 0. Okay, now it makes more sense. I had inverted the logic, and this is our board the way it should be. We can improve slightly. It should not be this dark black. So maybe make it a bit more, the color a bit better. Let's come here to text color, and we can get something that is a bit smoother. Let's go for maybe text is late 700. Let's see how this looks. And here as well. Let's see if it's a bit less aggressive on the eyes. Yes, but I don't like it much, to be honest. Maybe let's go for a text gray. 500. Text gray. 600. Because why not? me change this one. Text gray, grave A, grave E. Okay. Yeah, it's slightly better. I'm going to change both of them. Text gray, text gray. Okay. A bit less bad than that black, but of course we're going to change this label to be different, like the color be different when we're on a dark square. So to improve readability. As of now, it's okayish. No need to worry too much about this, but it's it's an improvement for us to keep in mind further down the line. Now that our board is looking better and better, it's time for us to add some events to it. And the first event I'd like to put is the hover effect. It's very simple one, but in our square here on this div, I'm just going to say hover, cursor, pointer. Very simple. So just so we can see that these squares are selectable. Of course, as of now, any square is selectable, which is a problem, but we're going to fix it later. For now, I just want to add this event. And most importantly, I want to allow the user to select a specific square. I'm going to add here an on-click to this div, which will select. This select is a function coming from the board. And why is a function coming from the board? Because it's the board that needs to hold the state of which square selected. We just need to send this down. So I'm going to create a state here, const selected square and set selected square. Use state, you probably more than use with this hooks, React hooks, is starting value null. This state can be of type square model or null. Two possibilities. Let me just organize this. Let's put this here. Yeah, like this. Yeah, like this looks fine. And now this select of the square is this function, set selected square. Of course, we need to receive this as a props, as I was putting it here, and the type of it to be a square model as a parameter, returning void. Select now can be used here. We're just going to send the value up, right? Square. Simple like so. So when we click, we select this square. Now, this selected square can be used to highlight the specific square. How we're going to highlight? Not sure yet, but we're going to say here selected if square dot row equals selected square dot row and square dot column equals selected square column. Simple like this. This selected again to be a property here. Selected will be boolean, can be also optional, then we just consider it false. And if selected, just we're going to add some new classes here. Let's open a new one. So selected, I don't know yet which one, but for now, let's add then beige, let's say gray. If it's selected, beige, gray, let's say 400. Refresh here and click and see that this each and every square will change to the background as we expected. Of course, again, this is not the style we're looking for, but we're trying out the functionality. If I refresh the page though, and we select again the squares, you see that we have a small issue. The background color is not selected, is not being applied anymore. This happens because here on the square component, all of these backgrounds, the orange 700, the white, and the background gray 400, they're fighting against one another. If we inspect it here, you will see that this div has the background orange 700. I click, it does also the background gray 400, and you see that the background gray 400 is being overwritten by our 400. If I deselect here, you see that now this one is indeed gray, but this one has priority over our gray background. So instead of adding several rules which set the same property, what we're going to do is a new variable. I'm going to say here background color, and this background color will be one of these three. Now, what is the rule we have? We have is square light, and we have selected, right? Have these rules. These are the two rules we need to look for. How we're going to do this? We're going to use a hook, which will be use memo to memorize this value. Now let's create then here function, which we're going to implement in a bit, and then the dependencies, we're going to add them also in a bit. What we're going to say that if selected, going to return this one, background 400. If not, so we just continue as already returned. We're going to check return here is light square. If so, return background white. If not, return background orange. And now, instead of having all these rules here, we're just going to say background color. We're going to import use memo, of course, add imports, and to the dependencies, we need to add everything that, when changed, triggers this change here. So selected and square. Here we have isLight square, that's why we need to have square. I just want to also change this selected to is selected to keep the pattern of being a boolean. I'm going to update it everywhere, here as well, and now we have the better name for this variable. Coming back to our application, going to refresh, selecting now, even after refresh, we see that it works just like before, because we are having a specific variable that takes care of this instead of having several backgrounds classes all at the same place, which could be conflicting with one another. It's time for us to add some game logic to our chess. As of now, we can select, we can see our board, our pieces, we prepare the groundwork, but now it's time to start adding some logic. For example, to only be able to select the piece that you can play with, or a possible square. Don't want to, as plain as white, that I can select a square here of black or a random square here. So the first logic we need to know is which player's turn is it? Is it whites? Is it blacks? And then after that, with this information, we can specify which squares have pieces that can be selected. Let's start then. On our app, TCX, we already have here the board, okay, board equals board, sending down, and playing as white. This playing as white determines the positioning of the square here of our board. We don't want to change this. What we want to do is to create a new variable, which we're going to call here is white turn, or if you just say, can say player or player turn, for example, and set player turn, use state. And here we're going to say this type is of, we check here, our player model, I don't remember exactly, player color. So we're going to use player color and say that to start with, it will always be white because in chess, the white always starts. And now the player turn, we're going to send down to this board. I'm going to put it here, player turn equals player turn. In our board per se, we're going to receive this, of course, player turn, now player color. Let's add this up here. And with this, we could calculate which squares can be selected or not, because we have here already white. How can we do this? We just check if this square contains a piece which is equal the same as this player turn. Now I just want to give the ability to also unselect this square, because we can select any square we want. However, if we click the same square, we are not unselecting it. And to do that, it will be quite simple. Here on this on click, whenever we select a square, we just check if this square is already selected. If so, we're going to send no. Otherwise, we send a square as a parameter. We need to change this because here to be square to be type of square model or no, which is exactly the same type, of course, that you can have here, so square model or no, and we allow then, if it's selected, we have a different behavior. Now, if I click on a selected square, we have this being toggled out, clearing up the selected square and of course then the styles.